Zheng Yixian and a group of priests exhibited a somewhat unusual expression on their faces, which anyone could tell was related to food. They were concealing a significant secret, making the atmosphere at the scene tense. Baili Chongqing and some members of the investigative team looked towards Zheng Yixian and his group, harboring a vague suspicion that was not uncommon in the apocalypse. Wu Di spoke up. With half the believers dead, it surely means the remaining ones can be well fed, right? Upon hearing this, the members of the Bai Shui sect present showed signs of anger. Han Chong expressed his disgust and shouted, "Don't talk nonsense. We would never do such a thing." Dai Mai frowned and protested, "Don't lump us in with those beasts." Wu Di shrugged, his eyes filled with mockery, and said, "So you're definitely not surviving by not eating, are you?" As both sides were about to cause a commotion, Zheng Yixian and Bian Junwu simultaneously stepped in to stop their groups. "Enough, you two." Zheng Yixian took a deep breath, bowed slightly to Bian Junwu, and said, "There is indeed a bit of a secret, but since this involves our survival and that of the Bai Shui sect, we will not mention it to outsiders." Bian Junwu's voice remained cold, but he seemed to be questioning Zheng Yixian. "Oh, so even we cannot know?" At this moment, any secret that cannot be disclosed might be related to the zombies. Zheng Yixian looked up at Bian Junwu and said, "If you truly want to know, I can explain." Bian Junwu replied, "All right." Zheng Yixian stood upright and said, "Please follow me." Behind him, Han Chong looked somewhat annoyed. The chief priest asked, "Can we tell outsiders about this?" Zheng Yixian waved at them, "It's fine. Your investigative team from the Jiangnan region is not someone we want to hide anything from." The group of priests was very worried, not wanting to reveal the Bai Shui sect's secret because they knew that once this secret was known to other forces in Tianhai City, it would be like giving them a significant weakness. Even the group from the Jiangnan region could potentially threaten their treasures. That treasure is the foundation of the Bai Shui sect, existing since ancient times. However, Zheng Yixian, as the high priest with a status close to that of sect leader Yuan Konye, had decisions that could not be opposed. Zheng Yixian led Bian Junwu and his group towards the abandoned skyscraper next to the Grand Cathedral. As they approached the building, Bian Junwu suddenly stopped, his brow furrowing due to an unsettling feeling the building evoked. The gray concrete and steel structure, piercing through the snowy ground, resembled a large tomb. Bian Junwu had a gut feeling that he should stay away from this place. Baili Chongqing also approached and whispered, "Captain, there's a very strong smell of fresh blood." Bian Junwu raised his eyes, remaining silent as he followed Zheng Yixian inside. There was something he didn't mention to his team. After becoming blind, his senses had become more acute. Just now, he had seen a strange object outside the skyscraper. A massive, ferocious, and terrifying monster over 100 meters tall, with countless limbs moving frenetically and complex, entangled roots beneath. At this moment, Zheng Yixian turned around to face them, a sinister smile on his lips. "Gentlemen, this is the secret of the Bai Shui sect. Would you like to see more?" Wu Di crossed his arms and sneered, "Pretentious nonsense." As the group entered the skyscraper, the stench of blood grew even stronger. However, this blood smell was somewhat peculiar. It didn't resemble the scent from dead bodies but rather the smell of fresh, flowing blood. The fresh blood odor was rich and not unpleasant, even somewhat alluring and sweet. As they gradually advanced, they finally saw the monster. The entire deep building was overtaken by a type of bizarre plant. It had vines and branches covering the whole skyscraper, with the branches and leaves emitting an eerie blue light, and on the branches, they could see bright red fruits. Seeing this scene, Bian Junwu and his group began to understand somewhat. "Is this the source of food that you rely on for survival?" Bian Junwu asked. Zheng Yixian took a red fruit from a branch and handed it to Bian Junwu. "Not bad. This is a mutated plant we discovered, which we call bloodvine. It possesses extremely strong vitality, absorbing all the surrounding nutrients and then converting them into its own life force, eventually bearing fruit. These red fruits are our main source of food." Bian Junwu looked at the red fruit Zheng Yixian handed over, slowly picking it up. He did not eat it but carefully observed it. Zheng Yixian smiled and said, "Rest assured, this fruit is not poisonous. We've been eating it for several months now and no one has detected any unusual signs from it." Byung-jun Woo stared at the bloodvine fruit in his hand, remaining silent for a moment. Many thoughts were running through his mind. Byung-jun Woo calmly said, "Then it can be considered a temporary solution. But is this fruit enough for your thousands of people to eat?" Jung Yixian continued to lead the way and replied, "Ordinary fruit isn't enough, but there are methods to catalyze its fruiting rate. For example, like this." He pointed towards the ceiling ahead. Byung-jun Woo and his group looked up and were surprised to see a spherical object hanging from the ceiling, surrounded by green leaves and emitting a faint blue light. On closer inspection, its shape vaguely resembled that of a human. Meng Xiyu couldn't contain her shock and exclaimed, "Is that a person? Are you using people as nutrients to make it bear fruit?" Jung Yixian, with an unchanged expression, replied, "To be more precise, it's the remains of a person." After a moment, the investigative team continued to follow Jung Yixian deeper into the bloodvine area. They witnessed a truly astonishing sight. The vast space within the castle had been entirely overtaken by the bloodvine, extending from the bottom up to the highest point of the ceiling. The bloodvine's body was both thick and powerful, resembling a creature, and even exhibited pulsations similar to breathing. Around them, on the walls and floor, were numerous human-shaped objects, numbering in the thousands. Jung Yixian placed his right hand over his chest, closed his eyes, and prayed, "May those who paved the way become the hope of survival. May their blood and flesh become my sustenance." At this moment, everyone understood where the Baishui sect's food source came from. They had used the bodies of the dead as nutrients for the bloodvine. The bloodvine absorbed the nutrients from the corpses, bore flowers, and produced fruit in response. Wu Di, crossing his arms, frowned and said, "How is this any different from eating human flesh?" Meng Xiyu replied, "There is a difference. At least it avoids the risk of virus infection. Moreover, from a psychological perspective, it's easier to accept." Although everyone was shaken by the sight of this giant mutated plant, they did not find the situation too unusual. After all, they had seen many stranger things. This method of handling corpses in this way was considered acceptable. Jung Yixian turned to the group and said solemnly, "Everyone, this is the greatest secret of our Baishui sect. It is related to the survival of our thousands of followers. Therefore, I ask you to help us keep this secret." Jung Yixian was not worried that the people from the Jiangnan region would be tempted by the bloodvine. If it weren't for the current shortage of food, who would want to resort to such a source? After all, the fruit was derived from absorbing nutrients from corpses. Furthermore, transporting such a large bloodvine would be very difficult. Byung-jun Woo nodded, "Rest assured, we will help you protect this secret." After speaking, he threw a red fruit to Wu Di, who was standing nearby, and then turned to leave. Wu Di glanced at the fruit with evident disgust and then tossed it to Kong Sheng, saying, "Take it, if you want it." Kong Sheng threw it to Qi Guangming, saying, "I don't want it either. Whoever likes it can take it." The fruit was tossed around as if it were a game. However, none of them wanted to eat such a plaything, even if it meant being beaten to death. A devilish smile appeared on Jung Yixian's face as he departed with the others. He glanced back at the bloodvine, which was surrounded by thousands of corpses. Whether due to the wind or some other reason, the bloodvine began to sway gently. After leaving the abandoned high-rise, Byung-jun Woo noticed that representatives from other factions had not yet arrived and suggested meeting with the leader of the Baishui sect, Yuan Konye. "I've heard that your sect leader has even piqued the interest of some leaders in the large district." Jung Yixian was startled and replied, "The sect leader typically does not handle the sect's affairs. I am responsible for external matters." Byung-jun Woo continued, "Since we're here, we would like to meet her at some point." Jung Yixian's small eyes narrowed at this statement. The interest of major figures in the Jiangnan district in Yuan Kongyi's abilities was a significant signal. Indeed, Yuan Kongyi's abilities were unique. She could help others awaken their powers. Theoretically, with her assistance, one could acquire a continuously expanding army of superhumans. For the Baishui sect, this was also a tremendous opportunity. If they could gain the support of major district powers, the growth of their sect would undoubtedly become increasingly formidable. Jung Yixian said to Byung-jun Woo, "Please wait a moment. I will go inform the sect leader." Byung-jun Woo nodded. Jung Yixian then headed toward the main hall of the sect. After he left, the others watched his retreating figure with varying expressions on their faces. Perhaps it was the unsettling aura of the bloodvine. Wu Di frowned and said, I always feel that the Baishui sect has a kind of malevolent aura. Kong Sheng replied calmly, that's not unexpected. After all, organizations existing in a religious form tend to have some oddities. Meng Xiyu also spoke up, however. The fact that the Baishui sect has survived until now and has allowed many of its followers to survive is a very powerful ability. Baili Chongqing approached Bian Junwu and asked, Captain, do the higher-ups really show interest in Yuan Kongye? Bian Junwu frowned. At this point, the higher-ups have raised a question for us to test her abilities. If, as the intelligence suggests, she can help others awaken their superpowers without any cost, the leaders above will certainly want to have her.